Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Arena STL here on the Fuel Sports Network. Boy, who would have thought 2 weeks ago, after coming out of hiatus, there would be this much news in the arena football world to talk about? There's a few stuff in the IFL and NAL to go to, and of course, discuss the most biggest news that has happened to before the 2025 arena football season. Before we get on to that, let's do quick stuff on the news between the IFL and the National Arena League. Indo- in the Indoor Football League, we already have announcements of who's coming back and who is not coming back when it comes to the head coaches. The most obvious one coming back, of course, is Corey Robinson from Green Bay, has signed his contract and will be the Blizzard head coach once again next year, which is kind of obvious. Green Bay was the number one seed, even though they failed to get into the Indoor Football League National Championship game. Once again, Indoor Football League, that needs to be shortened up and changed. That was a no-brainer. Another one was Rob Keefe from the Bay Area Panthers, defending champs from a year ago, and have him resigned. Obvious. Then, of course, you got news, of course, for the new team in the IFL, Fisher's Freight, and they hired, of course, Dixie Wooten, that has some experience within the arena football world. The one that came as a surprise was head coach of the Northern Arizona Wranglers did not renew his contract. Didn't get fired. He just decided not to renew, and they just have parted ways, which is kind of interesting. You would think with the Northern Arizona Wranglers, they went to the playoffs, and it or and it's just like, what the heck's going on here? But it's his choice. So that's all for the Indoor Football League news. Then, of course, like similar to the news with what we're going to get up to, but just a quick note with the National Arena League, they announced a new expansion franchise. Before I do that, let me show a map of what the National Arena League teams were here. You got all those there. Of course, I believe it includes the last time we were on the Amarillo Dusters. So now they have an even number of teams now by adding another team. Of course, surprise, surprise, another team in Texas. The Baymont Renegades. We'll go with that logo once again. So it's kind of interesting to me. Like they got another team in Texas, and that kind of helps it location wise. Let me show that map there again, because they already got a few in Texas. Now this will be their, if I look at the map correctly, their third Texas team. It's just kind of interesting. Like, let me show it again. That's actually two Texas teams, football teams in Texas that have the exact same similar logo and name, because I'm referring to, of course, anyone that has seen us in Fuel Sports Network covering alternative football, because we have to remember with the UFL, they have the Arlington Renegades in Texas. So I don't think there'll be a problem, but you never know, because you never know if there'll be some confusion, though. You got one that's strictly indoor arena football and one Arlington Renegades, which is outdoor 11-man, 8-man. So it's kind of interesting how that turned out, but they now got an even number of teams, 12. So we'll see if there's more there. That's it for National League. Now, of course, everyone has probably want to talk about the latest news and the biggest news of all that happened last Friday. Of course, it looks like, and I'll bring this here, it looks like it is the end of what we known as the brand of Arena Football League, the AFL. As I said before for the previous show, there was rumor they're going to be rebranded, but technically this really isn't a rebrand. This is more of what they said, like basically drop off and just join and doing their own thing. Because the Arena Football League trademark here is owned, of course, by Mr. Corey and G6 Sports, and they own the Arena Football League trademarks. And from the last show, they only own the league trademarks. Now, when it comes to like the teams, it's the team names, the logos, those are owned by the separate teams, so there's no problem there. They're able to keep those, which is good. Now we go to what is now the technically newest league here in arena football. And we'll go with their logo, first main logo here of Arena Football 1. That's the main logo here. I'll show the whole logo here in just a moment. Kind of has similar colors to the Arena Football League with the red and the blue in a way. The full logo is this. AF1, Arena Football 1. Show it here a little bit to get everyone to notice this here. And of course, with Arena Football 1, this includes the original, the 8 teams that ended. And as I said before, they kind of need to do this because, like I said before, with stuff, there's a lot of history when it came to the Arena Football League. But what Lee Hutton and others have done this past year and basically tarnished the name of Arena Football League, you kind of needed to start over because, to remind everyone what Lee Hutton did, you had some teams played in unsafe arenas or didn't have the proper equipment, including like dasher boards and the proper netting. Some players weren't getting paid, especially when it came to his wife's team, the Minnesota Minks. No, I'm saying Minnesota. You know her Minnesota team. How did I forget that name? And it's just quite interesting with all that. And then throughout the whole thing, you got the whole bad deal with the NFL Network deal falling forward and not happening when it was supposed to have games. And then you had that weird Viry streaming network, which there were some good moments and there were also some bad moments to it as well. Then they started putting it on YouTube like everyone else, and that seemed to do good. And then, of course, from everyone remember, after getting rid of Lee Hutton, Jeff Fisher became the intern commissioner, then became full-time commissioner, and they had their playoff games and their championship game, of course, on CBS Sports Network. Now let's get to the press release of Arena Football 1 here. Of course, it has now that they're their national headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. Arena Football is back. Commissioner Jeff Fisher and Arena Football team owners are excited to announce Arena Football return for the 2025 season. The teams Arena Football 1 are excited to welcome new organizations to the field for the 2025 season. The founding members of the AF1 will also welcome a number of expansion teams in emergency markets in coming days. And just to remind people, let me get to here with the computer. Let me show the map of the 8 teams that starting out with Arena Football 1 here. You, of course, got the Washington Wolfpack right here, the defending champions, Billings Mustangs, the 3 Kansas teams, the Wichita Regulators, the Southwest Kansas Storm, and the Salina Liberty, the Nashville Cats, the Orlando Predators, and then finally the Albany Firebirds. And it's kind of interesting too, because now, let me read the rest press release here. And by Commissioner Fisher's statement here, I got both feet in this and I'm 100% ready to go. This league has a great group of people who are going to make amazing things happen and on and off the field. All teams are committed to 2025 season, are enthusiastic about the leadership of Commissioner Jeff Fisher and the CEO, Jerry Kurtz, former AFL Arena Football League. Well, Chris, I'm going to mention that here because there has been some additions here, so give me a moment. And Jerry Kurtz, of course, brings that thing. So they have now, compared to when Lee Hutton runs things, you actually have people experienced in the arena football world in order to build this new league known as Arena Football 1. Of course, you got some sayings here from the current owners, Orlando Predators owner Jay said, this gives our organizations the opportunity to take control of our destinies and deliver quality product on the field our fans expect and deserve. We are excited to grow the game of arena football in Orlando and internationally. Then, of course, defending champions, the Billings Outlaws, owner Steve Titus. I've never been excited for professional spring football as I have been right now. We look forward to doing what it takes to deliver another championship trophy to the Billings fans. So, technically, can you actually call them the defending champs? Because since it's a new league, so you could just call them Arena Football. You actually could technically call them the last and final Arena Football League champions now because of the forming of this new league. Then, of course, finally, Washington Wolfpack corner Kelly Fahey. I apologize if I mispronounced that. The Wolfpack are honored to be part of an exciting new era in arena football. We are proud to be in the trenches with incredible ownership groups whose teams are battle tested both on and off the field. Long live arena football. As Arena Football 1 begins to wrap up operations for the 2026, there will be continued announcements in the coming days and weeks. And they are quite honest, and that actually put into what has happened in the last couple of days, because we, like, compared to what when Lee Hunt ran the or AFL, the announcements, they did happen, but there was like an in-between spots, like some here, some there. It went look quite quiet. But now, but first, I want to get to there was an interview done locally in the Billings area with the new owner, Steve Titus. And I have to point this out. Steve Titus was one of the more vocal owners that you saw, like, on screen, gave interviews about the whole thing with Lee Hutton was in control and the whole Arena Football League was in disarray. And he continues to be a little bit more vocal, but in this way, more positive, and one way he actually prefers, in my opinion. Let's see. Start here. And one thing that they said, and it's actually quite surprising, as he told the Billings Gazette, they're actually going to start signing players here in a few weeks. So pretty quickly. So their off season is going to start pretty quick here for the Arena Football 1. And we're focused on league meetings coming in Chicago in a few weeks. So it's in Chicago. And rule book changes, because there were some talks. And another thing too, the Arena Football 1 social media, if you for people want to know, it's AF1 on Facebook. I believe it's also AF1 on Instagram. I don't follow that page as of yet. And on X, it's AF1 Football. And already the admin for that, for the X page at least, is so far very social and a lot better than whoever ran the Arena Football League page. And especially for a person that a colleague of ours and someone we had here on the show, it's a little bit more delightful banter rather than being blocked. So it's actually quite good. So it's going to be so good. And yes, this league is so solid. It's amazing what the difference is when you actually have people that have been involved in the sport and actually run rather than some outsider and just talks all a big game. And of course, I'm talking about Lee Hutton. And here, and coming up is a rule book change. So it's going to be interesting because, far as some of the stuff, they're still going to have the nets, those type of points. Are they going to play true Ironman football or maybe have some partial Ironman football rules? That was one thing that was kind of discussed in this article here. Get down here with that interview. And he was asked, why become the name Arena Football 1? Arena Football 1 has a nice ring to it. There's some name recognition from the past, and it's something we all agreed we wanted to be a part of. There is some historical value there, and networks know about it. It's just a path we decided to take moving forward. And for those that watched the Arena Bowl, it looks like they were still continuing the partnership or contract or at least deal with CBS Sports Network, which has become basically the network showing alternative football games the outside of the course the NFL and also UFL, because right now the CBS Sports Network has of course had posted the Arena Football League games, only the IFL championship, and of course basically kind of either the or almost the game of the week when it comes to the Canadian Football League. And one thing, because they confirmed, like, Coach Fisher is, of course, the commissioner, all that stuff. And when he was asked about expansion teams, this is quite interesting. We are finalizing our lineup for 2025. We expect next week to announce some expansion markets, some new markets that don't currently have teams, but that have teams in the past and will be on an internet sense. We plan on having a team in Mexico next year, and we're talking about having a team in Canada as well. So we're finalizing our 2025 teams, and I think that our arena football community is going to be very excited about the future of this organization. Now, the thing about what he just said, probably, Chris. The thing that is interesting, like when he says next year, does he mean for the 2025 season or going to, of course, be announced next year, go for a 2026 season? It's a little bit clear when it goes to international. When it comes to putting teams in either Mexico or Canada, Canada is actually quite simple because everyone for, especially when you try to look for arena availability, because let's see, Canada's number one sport, what is it? Oh, hockey. And Canada doesn't have, especially has a of lot of arenas that they could choose. Though the question is where, because like it just depends like what region or division they want to put them in. Because like for example, if they put a team in Toronto, that's more likely going to be in the Eastern Division, and Albany and Toronto are actually not that far from each other. So that could be a possibility, or any of the other ones, Calgary, Quebec, or stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I see it could be in Canada. The question is where in Canada, because there's a few quiet provinces, and like I said, they don't have they basically have a surplus of arenas in Canada. Now Mexico, that like any sports, like heck, NFL's been talking about like maybe having a team in Mexico at some point. Of course, they're already doing international play there, so it's kind of interesting. Like, I do think there's probably arenas in Mexico. Like, I'm pretty sure because the top sport in Mexico is soccer, and somewhere between soccer and baseball. So they probably do have some indoor facilities because indoor soccer is a thing. So it is possible that it could. It just like honestly, the only city that I can think of would be Mexico City, of course, but it just depends because I don't know much about Mexico or the arenas that are there. But it'll be interesting, of course, for the division for that one. That would either be in the West or probably the South Division, of course. So that's going to be kind of interesting, bringing the Arena Football League. So that's all that Steve Titus had to say. So then, of course, you kind of want to, okay, how the expansion teams, who's going to be the teams that going to come in there? Are there going to be teams moving from a different league, or is these newly founded teams? So we already, so first let me show the map of the first eight again, because there's the first eight, because you kind of have some open areas you need to fill because you got a lot of teams in the island, basically, like Albany, Orlando, Washington, and Billings. And the Kansas teams, they're just really close to each other there in the Midwest. So, of course, they kept to the word. And, of course, yesterday on Monday, September 9th, they announced their first expansion team, which I have their logo here, which is, and most surprisingly, and from the state of California, the Stockton Crusaders. The first expansion team of the Arena Football One, the ninth team, if you will. Showed that there for a little bit longer. So Stockton, California Crusaders. And when I heard this, I'm like, huh, California, because for those who have seen the past how we covered alternative football here on the Fuel Sports Network, the biggest thing when it comes to putting a team into California is the workers' compensation insurance. The number one thing, because heck, even Lee Hutton talked about that in his interview, though we'll see if I'll say he was halfway true because it's kind of hard to basically believe what he said to what happened throughout when he was in charge. And they had a briefly car right here, of course. Uh, Press release here once again from Nashville, Tennessee. The Stockton Crusaders and Arena Football One are excited to announce that the Crusaders will be joining AF1 for the 2025 AF1 season. The Stockton Crusaders are excited to bring arena football back to the Central Valley and plan to play their 2020 season at the Adventist Health Arena. Jeff Fisher says, "We are thrilled to bring in an organization with experienced leadership like Stockton. They will expand our league's footprint and deliver a quality product to our arena fans in California." And once again, when I show the map again, it's basically Northern California. Stockton's about an hour away from Sacramento. And you see how that's more convenient for the teams like Billings and Washington because you don't have the Oregon Black Bears and the Rapid City Marshals are gone too as well. So it's going to be, so that's kind of good. And though, of course, the Stockton Crusaders would be in the West Division of Arena Football 1. Continuing here, we are with an experienced leadership team featuring President Scott McKibben, former CEO of the Rose Bowl. Very good. With years of sports leadership and VP operations, Paul Hewitt, the former VP of operations, and this is important, for the Bay Area Panthers, the Crusaders have a steady hand at the helm. So you got experienced ownership. That was one of the biggest problems with some of the teams. I kind of get what you mean there, Chris. Because because here you see that for the first expansion team, they hire people with experience with arena football or football itself. Rose Bowl? Let's see, who does the Rose Bowl have? Of course, you got the bowl game, and of course, that's where the UCLA Bruins play. And also have other stuff in there. Rose Bowl, it's one of the more, honestly, I actually prefer the Rose Bowl over the Coliseum in California anyway. But like, there's the start, you have people running it, and then of course you have someone running. Get that out of there. That's been part of arena football with the Bay Area Panthers. Even though they are still a young organization, you have someone with experience. General Manager Greg Pearson, head coach Kurt Bryan will head up the football operations for the Crusaders. Bryan is a veteran head coach in the indoor football space and a world-renowned offensive innovator. His A11 offense, it's known worldwide, and his player development skills have landed many players Division I scholarships. So that's going to be quite interesting with that type of offense, the A11. So it's going with how he used the A11 offense. So this is quite good. Then you got a quote here from the team president, Scott McKibben. "We are both proud and excited to receive this approval to join AF1. They have a strong and well-known brand that resonates with the fan base and sponsors. We are impressed with the vision for both media rights and league-wide sponsorship going forward. Stockton has an established history in the arena game and looks to build upon that history with their 2025 arena return. As part of the 20th largest media market in the United States, Stockton represents a significant expansion of AF1 footprint. All the AF1 teams are excited to bring arena football back to its fans in 2025. Can I do a game the fans know and love? Return there, so on and so forth." So, like I said, to actually have a team in California is good, especially as I said before, one of the biggest complaints was having to afford the workers' compensation insurance in California, which is really high. And California has really been hard lately when it comes to operating business there with high taxes and stuff there. So it's good that there's like the last arena team that I know from California was actually the Bay Area Panthers, I think. So it's good to have that in the West because the West Division was the one. It was probably, in my opinion, the most gutted out of all divisions for the Arena Football League last year because Oregon Black Bears gone, Rapid City Marshals gone, and probably the second to it was the South Division, I believe. And dear Lord, like seriously, this to have a team in California on the West Division, that was badly needed. Really badly needed. Now, today, they actually announced another franchise again. And this one is that I didn't actually expect this, but it looks pretty good to me. And this would be in the East Division, and that is the Wilkes Bear, that which is in northeastern Pennsylvania. And Wilkes-Barre actually have arena football teams in the past, but unlike the Stockton Crusaders, this actually is going to have their ownership actually they're develop their own brand and stuff and actually have fans be involved. And here's the release for this. Okay, Arena Football One excited to announce another expansion team for the 2025 AF1 season. Wilkes-Barre, and Bear spelled Barre, will be home to the second expansion team for the 2025 Arena Football season. Led by team owner Matthew Rowland, the Wilkes-Barre team will be bringing professional sports back to northeastern Pennsylvania. Rowland has an extensive experience as an innovative boxing promoter and has several large boxing cards to his credit. As a graduate of Miss Concordia University in Dallas, Pennsylvania, Rowland has roots in northeastern Pennsylvania and is working to establish deep roots for the team with community partners. So you have someone that has experience with running sports like this, even though it's more in the fighting world, but someone that actually has experience within the sports world. Like again, another reason that this administration is doing better than the previous one, because the other ones you had owners that there were some with freedom football and there were some that were none, and it looks like with Jeff Fisher and with this organization with Freedom Football One, they actually vetted some of these owners because it just like it seems like they're doing their research and stuff and actually putting teams in areas that actually do make sense. So let me bring up that map again. So let me see. That team is actually a little bit south of Albany, and that should become a pretty good rivalry and good stuff because that doesn't look like it's that far between Albany, New York, and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Northeastern. So it actually should be pretty good. Yeah, insanity is a bit of an understatement. So that looks pretty good there. And going on here by Fisher's comments here. With experience in innovative ownership leading Wilkes-Barre, we are excited to welcome Matt and his highly professional organization to AF1. They are thoroughly prepared for the biggest stage, and we are excited and impressed to what they bring to the table. As we strengthen our league, we are excited to have teams like Wilkes-Barre in the fold. Mike Rowland, the team owner, speaks here. I am humbled and honored to bring arena football back to Wilkes-Barre and northeastern Pennsylvania. I want to thank AF1 and in particular Jared Widman, Jerry Kurtz, and Jeff Fisher for believing in me in this market. Wilkes-Barre will have many announcements in the coming days, including a head coach announcement. This is important here. A contest for fans to vote on the team name. Even though I am leading the ownership group, the team belongs to the people of northeastern Pennsylvania, said Rowland. As you can see, there is no team name. The team belongs to the community, and the fans will vote on our name. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because it's always kind of fun to develop a team name for when it comes to these newer franchises. So like I don't know, like with Pennsylvania, you kind of have the steel type of thing, but they might stay with it. So Pennsylvania does have several layers of what history that they can pull from, and it could be something out of left field. For goodness sakes, you have the minor league baseball team, the most popular one, called the Savannah Bananas. For goodness sake, so anything could happen with the name, and so it's going to be kind of interesting how they do it here. Of course, we had this last year in the area football league because the Washington team they voted and became the Washington Wolfpack. It had several other few names there, so it's going to be kind of fun how this organization goes. And let's see, then that's about end of that type of news there. So now it goes on here to what happens next, and we're going to take a little break, and we're going to discuss that here in a moment. So be right back.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement, a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
Same great taste. Yes, same great taste. Same great taste.
Welcome back. So, what is next? Because it seems like, of course, it looks like because we have 3 more days out of the week, and you probably can guess they probably would announce, like they have been the past 2 days, announce another a team each day, or don't know if they do the three because you're kind of wondering, even though like they did announce one on Monday and there was Monday Night Football, so they could still announce one Thursday with Thursday Night Football, so it is possible. The question is now, how many teams are they going to have in total? And will these announcements just only be for the 2025 season, or will there be teams that also be announced that would actually be future after the 2025 season? So it's kind of interesting. Now, the one thing that did catch my eye is, let me bring up that map again. Hold on here. Where is it? Okay. Because when it comes to the original 8 right here, and on that day they announced like the new era with their social media stuff. One team has been did that has not been announced yet. That of course is a team that actually is about right here. And that was a team that was part of the future teams of the Arena Football League, which is the Arizona Bandits. It was on their socials as well. So one would have to assume that they are probably one of the other expansion franchises that are going to be announced. And honestly, they kind of need to because that will help the. Now, Arizona, you could technically say they're either in the West or Southern Division, but I would say more to the West. Then again, could that be a team that's for the future for 2026? So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, Chris, it's they were planning somewhere in the Phoenix area. Of course, you already got a few other Arizona teams there, so it's going to be quite interesting because remember that team owner was actually those that watched the earlier in the show actually had an interview before the first week of the Arena Football 2024 season for Arena Football League. Then after the first one, like the social media thing was around, but it was like they were supposed to announce their building, but like after the whole thing with Lee Hutton, the owner's been kind of silent, but not really. The other expansion team that was supposed to be a plan, those that remember, was supposed to be the Chicago Rush. Now, that one was a completely different type of situation because ever since they announced like they were planning to go for the 2025 C4 Football League season on their socials, nothing has happened. That thing has been dead silent. So, honestly, when it comes to like a team in Chicago, I just don't see it. It's possible, but it won't be with that ownership that was planned to. Honestly, that was probably one of the ownerships that was kind of maybe got fumbled during the whole Lee Hutton vetting process. And I mean vetting kind of loosely. So now the question is like, what are the other teams or stuff they could do? Because as we said before, the Billings owner mentioned Mexico and Canada. But was that for the 2025 season, or is that announcement of teams that are going to come after the 2025 season? So it's going to be kind of interesting because, like, if that happens, Canada, of course, it's either going to be either the North Division or the West. I don't know about the Central Division because even that's going to be kind of a hassle to travel to. Mexico, south. That's it's obvious. South. It's south of USA. You can't really do much better than go south. So now the question is, what are some other possibilities that could happen here? Because let's go for where I'm from. That because people that remember this show is, of course, called Arena STL, and believe St. Louis would actually was supposed to have a team with the Arena Football League, and that was originally the plan. Because those I've mentioned, and on an interview on the AFL podcast, the coach of the Philadelphia Soul was originally supposed to be the head coach of the St. Louis Arena Football team, and of course the venue was going to be the Famine Arena in St. Charles, Missouri, a little bit outside of St. Louis. And then Lee Hutton said like that was delayed due to because as I showed on a previous episode, the Family Arena has been renovated. It's had got some new stands and needs two teams. That's kind of funny. And like it got new seating, it's got a new air conditioning heating system, new lighting, and even added another scoreboard and some type of roof repair. I cannot recall. And had the renovations were they got it from some type of I can't recall it was either some type of state or federal program because the Fam Arena is a government owned building for I believe it's either it by the city of St. Charles or St. Charles County, or maybe half half. It's a little bit confusing, but it's a government owned facility. So, and it has held a lot of the Arena Football League teams in St. Louis past. Of course, as I mentioned from the show, the first one, of course, in Arena Football League back in the mid 90s was the St. Louis Stampede that did play at the Kiel Center, not what is now the Enterprise Center of St. Louis, and the rest have been in that building in St. Charles, and that has held up to about one, two, three, four, about 5 to 6 teams. And now the question is because if you look at that map again, as I showed you here, the 3 Kansas teams in the center are kind of by themselves there in the middle of there with the closest, if you look at the map, is part of the East Division, the Nashville Cats. And as you could see, St. Louis on the eastern part of Missouri right there would be a good location for the center and also a good type of rivalry between the Nashville Cats as well be near the Tennessee. So that is a possibility. There's a good chance it could be they were almost in the real football league, so that's a possibility. So now it goes like what else is there? Because if you see right again, let me bring that map up again. You kind of need to put some more in the South because remember, we were supposed there was a team in Louisiana with the voodoo that went away. Then, of course, team in Texas. Would I be surprised if there being a Texas team? No. Then, of course, could that be part of the Mexico team that the ownership of Steve Titus of Billings say that could happen? That's going to be kind of interesting. And like I said before with the map again, Canada, you could go anywhere. Like, seriously, you could go anywhere with it. So, as of right now, there are 10 teams that are confirmed, though you kind of could put 11 with the Arizona Bandits right there, one unofficial. Now it comes to how many teams, because in another article that I put up, Steve Tyers mentioned that the season's going to start maybe a little bit sooner, maybe earlier in March. And it's actually going to increase games. Instead of a 10-week season, we are actually going to have a 12-week season, have 12 games with 6 teams going into the playoffs. So that's a little bit more exciting, a little bit more. They have not announced a TV deal yet, but that's something more because, trust me, I'm surprised they announced this many yet so often right now. So now the question is, like, how many teams in total? Will they go up to 16? I have talked to someone about 16. Doesn't look like that's going to be the total. It looks like there's going to be hitting somewhere between the 12 and 14 mark. So will there be an even number of teams, or have we seen with some other leagues an odd number, which you have? Let's say, for example, they had 13 teams. So that way you would have for each week 6 games, and then just have one team with a bye, which could be possible. Or will they go up to 14 teams and have 7 games a week? It's kind of interesting to see how it goes from there. So it's going to be kind of interesting how things go here and announce here. Like, for me, I'm hoping they put a team in St. Louis because it makes sense location wise, and there's faggots for here, or they might be playing St. Louis maybe for the season after, because we're ready for any type of from any arena league here. But with the arena football one, it's kind of interesting how they're going to do this, and it's exciting. They got, as I said before, as all the teams that I have mentioned, they have had people that are experienced, whether it's up in a football or somewhere in sports somewhere. Like I said before, the team in Northeastern Pennsylvania, boxing promoter. And then, of course, the other one has history with running the Rose Bowl, and also another with their other person running the Bay Area Pirates, another arena football team. So, as I said before, compared to the ownership people that Lee Hutton got in for the 2024 season, some had experience because remember, a lot of teams came over from other leagues, especially the 3 Kansas teams. So, and then the ones that were kind of new and stuff, though most of those went away. Though the one that was totally new, the Washington Wolfpack, yeah, only the Washington Wolfpack that was like brand new, didn't have any history behind it, was the only of the new teams that survived. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see, like, it's just going to be like, you have to think here, like, how many teams? 16? No. From, like I said before, again, it doesn't look like they're going up to 16. That might be something planned for 2026. So if this league goes, but look, with this league, if it continues, and for the way it starts, it looks like this has a way, way brighter future than the Arena Football League in 2024. So it's just going to be interesting here, and also it just that it's going to be, like I said, then we're going to get to the signing of players because right now we're in the beginning part of the NFL season. And then you got players that already been cut from like the camp rosters, and then also players just coming and going within all the 32 teams practice squads. Then, of course, I have to remind people, of course, spring football does exist with the UFL. That league will get their first pick of those players there. Then, of course, you got then you got the other arenas, because remember, it's Arena Football 1, the National Arena League, and the Indoor Football League. Then you got those other minor leagues too. So it's just going to be interesting because at least with these new teams, if you actually have coaches and players getting jobs, which is very good and important here. Like more teams, like whether it's out there in the 11-man outdoor football world or in the 8-man indoor world, it's just kind of fun to have this go. And then, of course, I have to admit, since we do cover it, then, of course, you got players played in the new Arena League, which that's more, that's, of course, a little bit more different. Like they had a very successful first season. They added 2 teams that are coming this year. So it's just going to be kind of interesting how it goes. Like, players choose, like, do we go with the new leagues going, the more established league? Because the oldest league right now is the Indoor Football League, and technically the youngest is the Arena Football 1. The second youngest would be the Arena League, then the National Arena League as the second oldest. Then, of course, you do have some that, because there's always smaller of the Arena Football world that pop up out of nowhere. And once again, I do need to prioritize this with a message again, those with my past reporting. The one that's supposed to be happening that I'm going to mention once again, because there is another league, there is a league with a with a same name, similar type of situation called the National Grid Iron League that's trying to come back. And I have to report this every time I mention this, and a few of my colleagues do not go to that league, do not pay attention to the league. That league is a scam. That is a scam. It's a scam. It has been that with that whole thing, I can't really get into it by explaining so many times, but that league is a scam. Stay away from it. All right, then. So that's all for this evening here on this Tuesday. There will be a show here next week, especially with all the latest news coming from Arena Football 1, and probably see what other stuff's coming down, especially like I mentioned earlier with the IFL coaching. Like, it's because you're going to have some new hires when it comes to the new IFL team with the Freighters Freight there in Indianapolis. And then I believe they're also supposed to have another expansion team the following year in Columbus, Ohio. Don't I'm not 100% on that, but it's supposed to be coming there in 2026. So it's going to be interesting. And hopefully, oh, I just remember. Okay, one big thing that they did say for Arena Football 1 is that they're going to announce their schedule, including where the championship game for Arena Football 1, that's supposed to be announced in mid-October. I almost forgot about that. That's going to be kind of hard with a TV deal, especially how they play, especially for that time, Chris. Because remember, during that time to read football season, they had to compete with baseball, soccer, hockey, and all that stuff. Like, I want to see the blueprint. It's possible, but right now in my head, it's like, how do you figure all that out? So it's going to be interesting here. Like, I'm excited for this. I'm glad that these teams are still surviving. These provide jobs for coaches, for the players, and also help better for those markets just to have like a football, indoor arena football, or it's basically a sports team to cheer for and go to games. Because one thing I like about arena football, it is one of the most community driven sports. And I'm ready for to see how they do with the communities, especially for the two new ones in Stockton, California, and of course in northeastern Pennsylvania. For boy, why did I? So it's going to be kind of interesting how it goes there. See how that goes. What the team name will become there. Just stay away from anything with steel related. I think they're near Pittsburgh, but just stay a little. Try to do something more different, if you will, and I don't know, maybe not have another team with black and gold. So, but it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping here, like, I don't want to confirm or anything, but hopefully St. Louis is in the mix either for this season or the following season. But we'll see how it goes. And I'm very excited what goes on with Arena Football 1 and see how, because interesting enough, will there be another team announced for National Arena League with their addition of 3 teams already? And then we'll just have to see. But thank you all for joining me this evening here on September 10th. See you guys next week.